EVO for beginners, I was actually thinking whether I should call it for beginners or EVO Lite, and I still don't know whether this is the right title. But basically what I'm trying to say is, have you guys seen this book? Yeah? Who of you have ever opened that book and looked at the information inside? What do you think about it?
Well, from my perspective, it's quite appealing approach for gathering requirements plus running the project.
So useful stuff. And did it read well? I mean, is it like an easy read or?
I think the manuscript of Tom Sam guy is much
Yeah.
better to start.
Yeah. Basically, the issue that I had with this book that it is, so Tom had made what I see basically a complete system that you could apply to at actually very many different situations. Part of these books is actually a formal language that he had defined that you could use. And the problem is like I think personally this is like very powerful approach, but this book is very densely written. And actually Tom himself, he says it's not a book to read, it's a textbook. So this is something that you get, at the university, something that you study, something that you come back to. And once I got into this whole subject, I actually had problems, digesting, the gist of it. I mean, what is he actually trying to tell us? Like, the big stories, and how to separate it from, all the nice details and ways of addressing these issues. And what I'm actually going to show you today is what I have distilled from the book and from meeting Tom actually quite a few times. And this is also something that I use actually professionally. Surprisingly enough, there are companies now who start paying me for that. But the way I was able to, first convince me and then my customers that this is stuff worth doing must be much simpler than in this book. And I will try to tell you how I look at this. I have numbered this as a number of parts, as a number of approaches that you could take. In the end, they all come together, and there is much more than what I'm showing you today. But the order of this, what I call parts, they are not steps, is a little bit random. You don't have to go that way. You can use each of these techniques a little bit separately, even though they come together. So, okay, part one is a lot about what Michał said, actually, most of the essence about it. It has to do with measurement. And you can also look at this from a number of different perspectives, but since we are here at the Agile conference, for me, again, personally, this is the essence of agility, inspect and adapt. If you don't have that, well, you can do all the other stuff with the sticky notes and everything, but I think this is like one of the super important foundations. And there is a little bit of a trick in it, because if you want to check what you are doing, so you want to do adaptation, whether you are, developing what you have planned, you have to construct your plan in a way that you can actually check it, right? So if you say that our system is going to be more flexible, and then you want to try, you do stuff and then want to check whether you made your system more flexible, you have, an unambiguous way to check it. This is a statement that Tom uses a lot. Actually, I found many more people using this statement. It's a pretty powerful one. Unquestionable authority. He even invented his own scale. So I will just go quickly. Since Michał already covered the quantification, I go really quickly with this. Simple example. Many people say, I want to be fit, right? And now what does it mean? Could mean something different more for me than for another person. So basically, in order to answer this question, what should I do to become more fit, I have to understand what I mean by that. And this could be, again, a number of things. It could be like you have to want to be quicker or stronger or, last longer or lose some weight. So for me, actually, this is going to be my example. I don't want to lose any more weight. And at my age, I'm not getting any quicker, probably, so I have to choose between strength and endurance. And again, how can I measure this? Do I want to, run longer or bike longer or swim longer? So for me, according to my definition of fitness for myself, I want to be, running faster and further. And in order to be able to track this from month to month, from week to week, I need to put a number on it. And basically what Tom says, the easiest way that you should quantify this quality that you want to improve is to first you need to have a scale and a baseline, so basically your performance on that scale today and the target that you are driving into, or towards actually. So for me, it could be, for example, today I run 5 kilometers in 70 minutes, and I want to do this in 30 seconds by December 1st. So this is also what Michał said just before. It's really good to attach a date next to it. Otherwise, if I am like halfway through my regime of becoming more fit, and I'm doing like 50 minutes, am I on track, yes or no? If I don't have a deadline by which I would like to achieve this, I still don't know. And this is all about actually reducing the uncertainty. This was, of course, a trivial example, but if you think about the world that we are professionally involved in, like software development, this is basically a list of qualities of attributes of quality according to Wikipedia, and there is 80 of them. When you are running a project or when you are part of a project, especially if it's an important one, you probably care about a number of those. Hopefully you don't have to care about all of them, but some subset of them is very important, and you might want to track them, because if you ignore a number of those qualities, which are normally labeled, intangible, difficult to measure, and you build a system, it will have a certain performance. And if you do not, drive these performance indicators that are important for you, you are basically deciding that the outcome will be random. You might have a good, good system, or flexible, or scalable, but how much of this quality you will have, so how flexible it will be left to chance. And also the way, this way of clarifying what do you really mean by fit also relates very much and works for the so-called non-functional requirements. And just yesterday during this Ask the Expert session, I had a long discussion with someone from a big company about flexibility. And it took us 15 minutes actually to figure out what flexibility meant for him, because when we started talking, I had a different background, and for me it meant something else. So basically, quantifying your non-functional requirements in a software world is important for two reasons. One is that you want to drive them to a certain extent, and the second one, that you actually only, when you try to put a number on it, you will be sure that you and your team or your other stakeholders, you really understand the same thing, right? And this is true that Tom likes to give the example of quantifying love as the ultimate proof that anything can be quantified. But I think I have a better example. Have you ever seen something like this? Strategic pillars. We base our strategy on these pillars, and from this day on, our company will be so much better. I have seen it a number of times in my career. I have never met anyone, on the work floor, so to say, who would actually make sense out of this. So basically what I propose now really quickly is to show you that Tom's approach, or the EVO, his way of quantifying things, can even work for this case, which is for me much more extreme than understanding love. And if we just take one pillar from this, it sets certainty. And this is an example from an insurance company, just taken a little bit randomly from the web. And you could see that there are bullets there, there is a little bit of the text there, but if you really take this text and pull it apart, this is really what they want to say. They say certainty. We want to be the most solid and trustworthy provider of financial services. If I put my software engineering glasses on, I see two parts here. The green stuff, we want to be the provider of financial services this is the functional requirement, right? This is what the function of our organization will be. That is very easy to judge whether we are doing this or not. And it also relates to your functional requirements. Unless you are working on a very innovative product, which no one in the world have ever seen, and there is like a small percentage of those days, you are probably replacing some other system or replacing maybe a manual process with your software, and your functional requirements are actually easy, right? The functional requirements for a bank is, I want to be able to put the money in, take the money out, and send it to some other accounts. That's really the end of the functional requirements for a bank if you take this kind of really if you draw the line really at the functions. And these days all the difference is actually in the non-functional requirements that are notoriously difficult to measure. So in case of these guys, for them the answer is, yeah, what does it mean the most solid, or what does it mean the trustworthy insurance company, right? And that is easy again to relatively easy to think about, because if I'm their customer, for me a trustworthy provider of financial services is someone who is there when I need him, a transparent process, no hidden fees, things like this. You can really work on such things. Okay, but that was just one part. The second part, actually much more powerful, I think, and we have heard examples of this in at least 3 other talks throughout yesterday and a part of today, is taking this question that you are posed and asking, actually going the other way, asking why, right? So I want to be fit, but why? Do I want to be, more attractive? Then maybe I should get a haircut. Maybe I don't need to run for like half a year. Or do I want to do this because, for healthy reasons? So maybe my motivation is to be healthy. But if the reason is that I want to be healthy, then maybe the answer is I need to change the diet. Right? This is again, like we have heard so many times already during this conference, this is the maximizing of the work not being done. But if you want to discover what you don't have to do, you have to go up in this. Well, one way is like hierarchy level if you are in a big company, but definitely an abstraction level of the project that you are in, and if someone comes with a certain request, so could you build me this? And if you ask them, why, you might arrive at a completely different solution that doesn't require for them to spend, $500,000 or something. And if I want to be for healthy reasons and my diet is poor, I don't have to start running every day. I just, make a small tweak, maybe have, bigger breakfast or something like this. Okay, part 3. That is actually building already on part 1 and 2. And this is something that Tom says, basically he says, when I die, what I would like to have written on my tombstone is the inventor of impact estimation table. And this is surprisingly powerful tool if you compare it to the simplicity of it. And basically the message here is like this. So in the rows, you can build such a table in many ways, but here's just one example. In the rows, you write down the requirements that you want to achieve, preferably quantified, right? So these are your flexibility measures or quality measures and this kind of stuff. In the columns, you write all possible solutions that you can think of that would impact those requirements that are important to you. And now, where the column and the row crosses, you write your guess or guesstimation or, the best judgment that you can have at this moment in time. How does the certain solution impact each of your important requirements? And if you look into the book, actually, this is like Tom would like to have actually not just plus and minuses, he would like to have numbers there, because he says that if you take it far enough and that you want to, turn your conversion rate, make it higher by, 20%, then you might have a good estimation from the past, how much, money you have to spend on marketing, or whether you have to, hire more people, this kind of stuff. But I found also in practice, especially when you are started, it's not always worth it to try to put numbers in this table. Just impact, some sort of indication whether the impact is positive or negative or has no impact. It's good enough to start. And it's very important that you add cost at the bottom. And now, this is not going to magically tell you what you should do, but it will, if you've done your homework and you understand your requirements and the solutions, and normally you do, you will have much easier job of choosing one, right? So in this table, so which one you think is the best solution?
The costs are from the heaven. How do you get the costs?
Okay, suppose this is like thousands of dollars. I mean, suppose this data is true. Yeah, you can trust the cost. But still, which one would you choose? Three? Why? And it has so little impact on requirement number 3. True? Basically what happens, once you put this in front of all the stakeholders, you will have these discussions, right? Because what is missing here, but what will be in your heads and the heads of all the people that you discuss it, stuff that doesn't fit here, because maybe required number 3 is super important, right? And you know, we might bet on it. Or as you said, the cost of, you know, failing in the third one is kind of okay, it's cheap, not much, you know, improvement, but, you know, nothing can go wrong. Maybe we should start with this one because it's the lower risk. So, as I said, there is no magic coming out of this, but by this time you will have a very informed discussion, and it will be this discussion based on, you know, your facts and things you have more than opinion about. It won't be a clash of opinions, it will be a really informed discussion. And part 4 is definitely building on part 3, and it's this. So how do you know that what you have put into this table is, you know, actually true? And normally we don't. Even if you have been in a certain business for, you know, years or decades, the world is changing fast enough, your organization is changing probably also quite a bit. So it's important to notice that what's in this table, for example, but also your goals, the one that came here on the left-hand side, they are assumptions. And there are a number of ways that you can address these assumptions. So if you again go like, you know, full-blown advanced EVO, or impact estimation table, how it is advertised or taught in Tom's book. So next to the number in the middle, instead of plus or minus, you could also put like your confidence level. So, you know, I put their estimate that solution 1 will improve my requirement number 2 by 50%, and I'm, you know, 90% sure that this is true, yes or no. That's one way of helping you take the decision. But the other part is that you should do this actually quite often. And the real power of this tool is that you could actually check if these assumptions are true or not by acting on what you have just done. So the final step after you have built this impact estimation table, you try to figure out what is the smallest possible action. So for example, we go for solution number 3, but it's still a big solution. So the question is, what can I do within the solution number 3 that in a week I will have something, you know, changed in a product or in our system or in our organization. I don't know, whatever the solution 3 is concerned about. So I would like to have a result within a week or 2 weeks, but as short as possible. And I want to see these numbers actually move in the direction that I have predicted. So this is the real power. So you execute on what you think is your best option at the time. But again, you do this iteratively. And by each execution, you are getting more and more sure about your estimates, or maybe you have to change them. And, you know, if you go ad infinitum, you will be sure about these numbers because you measure the change that you have already caused, and you are basically arriving at the truth. Right? So, 5 minutes. That was faster than I thought. Okay. So basically, this was my best shot at explaining EVO in the way I apply it, and it actually works. Just to give you a scale of how far you can apply it, I have worked with one, well, they are not a startup, they are actually at their second round of investment. It's a company, around 40 people. They are trying to sell an internet product. We spent 2 days together, and at this moment they have no decision in the company taken without looking into some number in some table. So for them it was like a complete system. They were really mentally, the organization was ready for this. They applied it. They are really happy about this. At the other end of the spectrum, I can tell you that we tried this approach with, it was a college of Business and Law at the University of Canterbury in New Zealand, right? So if you look at the globe, so Poland is here and New Zealand is the other opposite spectrum at the other end of the globe. And here you have a startup, and here you have a actually semi-governmental institution, which a university is, and we applied this on the strategy level. And after 3 days of talks and workshop, they are not ready to run their company, the college by numbers, but they said, well, it really helped us, you know, to narrow down and figure out what actually are we talking about. So, well, based on those two extreme scenarios, I'm sure that you are somewhere in the middle, which means that actually you could basically try any of these, well, what I called parts, any of these mechanisms, and just basically, you know, try it, see which one works, and it will, I can, you know, assure that it will really help you figuring out what you should be doing. And the agile part would be allowing you to do this really efficiently and fast. Thank you.